Hello, friends, and welcome to The Architecture Enthusiast. In the golden light of the desert, where the mountains meet the sky and the arid earth stretches endlessly, there exists a dialogue between nature and architecture, a conversation whispered through the work of Frey. His buildings rise not as intrusions upon the landscape, but as harmonious extensions of it. Each line, each plane, each material choice a thoughtful response to the environment. Frey's architecture is not merely about shelter. It is about a profound relationship with the land, about living in balance with the forces of nature, about finding beauty and simplicity and serenity in the vastness of the desert. Frey, a visionary of modern architecture, understood that to build in the desert was not to conquer it, but to embrace it. His structures are a study in contrasts, of light and shadow, of open space and solid form, of the man-made and the natural. Yet these contrasts do not clash. They coexist in a delicate balance, each element enhancing the other, creating spaces that are at once stark and warm, minimalist, yet rich with meaning. Frey's architecture invites you to experience the desert not as a harsh, barren place, but as a landscape of infinite subtlety and profound beauty. His buildings are low-slung, hugging the ground as if reluctant to disturb the earth beneath them. Their forms are clean, their lines crisp, yet there is a softness to them, a gentleness that comes from their deep respect for the natural world. The materials Frey chose, glass, steel, concrete, and the local stone, are not used to dominate the landscape, but to blend with it, to reflect the colors and textures of the surrounding environment. Step inside one of Frey's creations and you are immediately struck by the seamless connection between the interior and the exterior. Walls dissolve into glass, and glass into air, creating a sense of openness, of being both inside and outside at once. The light, that ever-changing desert light, pours in, flooding the space with warmth and illuminating every surface, every object with a golden glow. But this light is not harsh. It is filtered, softened by the thoughtful placement of overhangs and screens, by the careful orientation of the building itself. In Frey's architecture, you become acutely aware of the passage of time. The play of sunlight across the room changes by the hour, by the season, turning each moment into a unique experience. The shadows grow long in the late afternoon, tracing patterns on the floor, while the morning light brings a cool clarity, a freshness that speaks of new beginnings. Frey's buildings are alive with this light, with this time. They are not static, but dynamic, ever-changing, just as the desert itself is ever-changing. The simplicity of Frey's designs belies their complexity. His buildings are not adorned with unnecessary details or decorative elements. Instead, they rely on the purity of form, on the honest expression of materials, on the subtle interplay of light and space. Yet within this simplicity there is a richness, a depth that reveals itself slowly, over time. It is a richness that comes from a deep understanding of place, from a sensitivity to the needs of the inhabitants, from a profound respect for the natural world. Frey's architecture is also deeply personal. Each building seems to carry within it a piece of the man himself, a quiet humility, a sense of wonder, a love of the simple and the essential. His structures are not imposing. They do not seek to overwhelm or impress. Instead, they invite you in, offering a sense of peace, of tranquility, of connection. In these spaces, you feel a sense of intimacy, not only with the architecture, but with the landscape, with the sky, with the earth. You feel a sense of belonging, of being in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. This sense of belonging is perhaps the most mystical aspect of Frey's work. In a Frey building, you are not just in a structure. You are in a conversation with the land, with the elements, with time itself. The walls do not separate you from the outside world. Instead, they frame it, highlighting the beauty of a distant mountain range, the elegance of a single cactus, the drama of a storm rolling in across the desert floor. The architecture becomes a lens through which you see the world more clearly, more deeply. And then there is the silence. The desert is a place of profound silence, a silence that Frey's architecture honors and amplifies. His buildings are designed to be quiet, to allow the natural sounds of the environment to be heard, the rustle of the wind through the creosote bushes, the distant call of a coyote, the soft hum of the desert at dusk. This silence is not emptiness. It is fullness, a space for reflection, for introspection, for connection with the deeper rhythms of life. In Frey's architecture, you experience the desert not as a challenge to be overcome, but as a source of inspiration, of solace, of beauty. His buildings are places of retreat, of contemplation, where the distractions of the world fall away, leaving only what is essential. They are places where you can breathe deeply, where you can feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, where you can watch the stars wheel across the night sky. They are places where you can reconnect with the natural world, with yourself, with the timeless. Albert Frey's legacy is one of harmony. Harmony between man and nature, between modernity and tradition, between simplicity and richness. His architecture is a reminder that the most profound beauty is often found in the simplest things, in the line of a roof against the sky, in the texture of a stone wall, in the way a building sits gently on the land. His work teaches us to see the world with fresh eyes, to appreciate the quiet, the stillness, the subtleties that often go unnoticed. In the end, Frey's architecture is about living lightly on the earth, about creating spaces that respect the land, that enhance the experience of being in a particular place at a particular time. It is about finding beauty in simplicity, about embracing the silence, about living in harmony with the world around us. His buildings are not just structures, they are experiences. They are meditations. They are a way of life. To step into a Frey building is to step into a world where architecture and nature are inextricably linked, where the built environment enhances the natural one, where the line between inside and outside is blurred, and where every moment is an opportunity to connect more deeply with the world around you. It is to step into a place of peace, of tranquility, of timelessness, a place where you can find yourself, where you can lose yourself, where you can simply be.